Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, your host of the Today Show, and so grateful to be starting off the week. And my co-host, of course, Virginia Clarke. And we missed you last week, but hey, you're here this week,
Yes,
and you have some really good news.
absolutely. Yes. I missed last week. Yes, I was recovering. I had breast surgery for my cancer on the 2nd. So Monday, yes, I took a me day and did some healing and just found out through my test results that they found no residual cancer cells in my breast or in my lymph nodes. So we are
Beautiful.
on the right path. We're on the right path.
Yes,
So healing.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been
Yes.
with us, and we've been with you, and lots of prayers have gone out for you. And
Mhm.
you did all the right things, taking care of yourself and loving yourself. That's our topic today. We're going to talk about the art of
Excellent topic.
loving myself
Yes.
enough to do all the right things. So we have some friends joining us today. So I think we'll
Ooh.
start with Dr. Susie Mierzwik coming
Yes.
in from Yucaipa, California. Good morning.
Good morning, Laurie and Virginia. I'm so happy to be here on your show today.
Good
Thank you
morning,
for
Dr.
being,
Susie.
yeah, world traveler. You've been traveling. We've missed you. We've
Mm-hmm.
missed you.
Glad to be back.
And another friend coming in from Niagara Falls, Ontario, Sylvia Somerville. Good morning, Sylvia.
Good
Good morning,
morning.
Laurie. Thank you
Yeah,
thank you very much for inviting me to be a guest on your show.
you're very welcome. And today we thought we would talk about the art of loving myself. And all of you ladies are very familiar with that. But, I guess maybe I'd like to start with our definition of what is love. Because a lot of people think that love's a feeling. When you were in junior high and you were walking down the hall and you saw that cute guy and he had butterflies in your tummy and you thought you were in love. Remember that?
Yeah.
And so we have a kind of a different spin on love. So let's just start off by before you knew the definition of what love really is. Where did you learn how to love? Who were your role models, and what did our parents teach us about love anyway? Let's start there because we grow up and we're supposed to know what love is, right? Duh. I've been married 3 times. I think I didn't really know what love was. So, who would like to go? Who would like to start?
I
Virginia?
can, I can start, Laurie. Yeah, absolutely. I think I didn't really know what love was until I had my son.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Like actual, you know, unconditional, no holds barred love.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, yes. So
Cool.
he'd be like, "Oh, mom."
No, that's fine. I think it's different things for different people. But
Yeah.
so let's talk just, before we did our work on our personal work and we learned more about what love really is. What did we think it
Mhm.
was? What was our own definition of love? Because I'm sure lots of our viewers are going to connect with whatever it is that we have to share. So, I thought for me, love was the one mistake I think I thought was that love was, when I got married, I thought I'd be married to this guy for forever. I thought it was permanent, I guess. And in Sylvia's case, it definitely was, but not in my case. And so that came as a big shock to me and a big scary thing when everything fell apart like a $3 watch. Sylvia, what about you? What was your
That's a very good
experience?
question for everyone. To me, it was my parents were my role model. My sister had mental illness from an early age, and we were taught that love was kind of caring and protecting each other, even if things weren't going exactly the way you wanted them to. It didn't mean someone didn't love you.
Mhm.
Um, and as you said with marriage, when I met my husband and he proposed to me, I told him when it was a instant thing with me and I, but what really touched me when he asked me to marry him, and I said yes, he actually cried.
Oh, wow.
And I thought to myself, oh my word. And so we were both crying, which you should have been laughing. And it just, to me, it's that just deep inner connection. It has nothing to do with the brain. It has to do with you, I think, and how you connect.
Cool. And you were married for?
58 years until he passed away with cancer.
Right.
But
Wow.
we dated for, if you add the 4 years we dated, you can say it was 62.
Yeah. 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 Very nice. Over to you, Susie.
Well, in my case, I thought love was till death do you part, because that's what I saw in the relationship with my parents, for better or for worse. However, after 24 years, my husband left me and things started to get sour way before that. And it wasn't until I went through my own grieving process, my own searching process, my own inner analysis of my whole life did I really come to find out what love was. So I didn't really have healthy role models. And I found when I was in love, I was looking to escape from a less than perfect situation. And so when people start out with those parameters, your life takes a very different turn from what you originally thought.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we think about loving ourself, for a lot of people, we've been told it's important that we love ourselves first so that we then have a full cup and we can give love to others and effectively love others. But a lot of people don't really understand what that means because we're so busy doing the opposite of loving ourselves. So the opposite of loving ourselves are doing those things that harm us and hurt us. So what are some unkind things we know that people do to themselves on a daily basis? So let's share that with our audience, because a lot of people don't realize when they're doing those things, they're actually not loving who they are. So what would be some of those items or situations?
I know in my case, mine was alcohol. My father's was alcohol as well. So that is one way I just escaped reality and didn't have to deal with anything. So absolutely, alcohol, drugs, any addictions you have would be a way that you're definitely not loving yourself. There's something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Susie.
I think another way we don't love ourselves is if we blame ourselves when things fall apart. So I learned that blaming myself was not a productive thing. And in my book, I talk about my strategies for self-love and recovery from trauma by first looking in. And looking in is not blaming yourself, but rather it's an analysis of where you stand in your life.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Sylvia, what do you know that are some things people do that would show that they don't love who they are?
Well, I know what I did was no matter what anybody wanted, regardless of what your plans were, you would say, oh, yeah, I can do that. You were always giving and giving and giving. And yet, when you needed help, no one was there. So you can't love yourself. Like, I think by giving too much, you're looking for that acceptance, that love, where in reality, you're just being used. And if you don't start loving you, you have to love you and start saying no. And when you start doing that, you say, gee, I did that. Say you, whatever, you gave the day to yourself instead of giving it to someone else. And you realize, now this is the way it should be. Yeah, you have to, I had to stop giving so much.
Yes. Yeah. And that would be about boundaries, having boundaries, right? Yeah. One of the ways that I did not love myself was to be always too hard on myself. I had these unrealistic expectations of what I thought I should be, but I was doing it to seek, like Sylvia said, to seek the approval of others
Yeah.
because I didn't love me. And the only way I felt loved is if I could get it from somebody outside of me. So therefore, I would, like Sylvia said, you know, the church calls and says, hey, we need 10 apple pies for the church supper an hour from now. And I'd be driving all over town like a crazy person, buying up all the apple pies in town to make sure I got them to the church at 5 o'clock. So, you know, those kinds of things. And so that's part of when we don't really have that nice level of self-love that we can stand up for ourselves. And that was another thing. I didn't stand up for myself. I let other people walk all over me like a doormat. That would be another way that you would show that you're not being kind. And hey, ladies, we're all guilty of this one. What do you know about negative self-talk? Negative self-talk. Looking in the mirror and what have we said to ourselves? I got to lose 50 pounds. I'm not, negative self-talk. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not whatever. I'm not enough even.
I'm not enough.
Right? Virginia, have you ever done that?
Oh my goodness. I was going to say that one next because I'm like, yeah, I was the queen of that negative self-talk. Absolutely. Anything. You're so stupid. How could you do something like that? What? Yeah, it's, and our body doesn't know any difference. If
That's
we're
right.
talking to ourselves like that, it doesn't know any different. So it's just so hard on everything. And I find even going through like losing my hair, just accepting that, that part was difficult, but I think because I had the tools and I did the work and I knew that, you know what, it doesn't matter. I am beautiful anyways. I'm going through something and I'm rocking it. So just bringing those positive energies in to your everyday when you look in the mirror and be like, ugh,
Yeah.
no hair. So
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Susie, have you experienced negative self-talk?
Well, I grew up without boundaries. So to echo what Sylvia said, I think that when you grow up without boundaries, you do not have any distinction between somebody else's reality and what you're supposed to do. So I always was trying to please my parents, please my husband, and I did not know what a boundary was until I was in the midst of my divorce recovery journey. And I was reading a book about boundaries, and it was actually shocking to me because I thought you were just supposed to do what everybody else told you to do. So I didn't have any identity for myself. I felt like a bobblehead. You know what I mean? Just a little head trotting along behind my parents and then behind my husband. And I didn't have any sense of what I wanted or who I was.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susie. Yes, I can relate to all of that. And what about you, Sylvia? Just before our break, we'll finish up with you and negative self-talk. Have you ever talked poorly to yourself?
All the time. When I was a child, as I've said before, I was partially deaf. And because of that, everyone said, oh, you can't do that. Or even in school, in high school and that, well, you can't take part in that. You can't hear right, blah, blah. And I thought I did not have anything to offer. And I started thinking, I couldn't do it until I wrote that first book. And I did that more or less therapy to prove to myself that I could do things. And that was way back in the 70s. It hit bestseller. And then I'll tell you, I said to myself, all right, now. And I deliberately made sure I sent a copy to all these old friends who kept saying, oh, you'll never amount to anything, including a school teacher. Bestseller, right?
Right.
But I didn't say what I wanted to, like, hey. Then after that, I thought, you know what? I'm just as good as you, and maybe I'm even a little bit smarter.
Right on.
And I got it together, and I haven't looked back.
Very good. Okay, well, we're going to take a little 30-second break, and I'm doing this to practice up for when we have our commercials produced and they're coming in. And this is a chance for you to get a feel for what does 30 seconds look like, or a minute, but we do a 30-second break. And you can actually say a lot in 30 seconds. It's amazing, especially this crew. I know that for sure. So here's what 30 seconds looks like, and where we'll be placing our commercials and our advertising.
The day is set. Join us October 12th, 2024 at Carrigan Arms for our next fundraiser in honor of veterans, the Invictus Games in British Columbia, Canada, and TDC Employment Program Enrollment. For more information, email us at info@thedisabilitychannel.ca. Introducing Veteran House Alliance International Monthly 50/50 Raffle. Purchase your ticket today, link on display, and have a chance to win cash and help a great platform supporting veterans.
Now, when you're waiting for that 30 seconds to go by, doesn't it seem like, is it ever going to end? So just to all of our viewers out there, if you have a product, a program, a service, an event, we've got a heck of a deal on right now for our first 30 advertisers. And if you can imagine, we're getting 25,000 viewers per episode. So that's like 125,000 people a week around the world would be seeing you and your product or whatever it is that you have there. So anyway, all right. Today, if you're just joining us, we're talking about love, the art of loving self. And other words that would be interchangeable with self-love, believe it or not, are words like self-esteem, self-worth, self-respect, self-regard. These are all words that mean the same thing as self-love. Because when I have my self-worth in place, that really means I have my self-love in place. So our definition, I hope you have your notepads out. Our definition of love is a decision, and it's a behavior, and it's backed up with action. So if I love myself enough, I'm not going to use Virginia's example, drink myself to death, or I'm not going to, cut myself because I'm stressed, and I'm definitely not going to be thinking about taking my own life. So when we love who we are, we won't do things to harm ourselves. So that's really how we approach the whole topic of love. It's unconditional love of self. Also, too, we're role models for our families. So if they see us loving who we are, they can't touch that really and can't mess with that. But what we're doing is actually mentoring them to do the same. So let's talk about what are some of the benefits of self-love. When you finally decide, it's a decision, to love who you are. I'm feeling so good about myself lately and so hot. I take myself out on a date right now. So what are some of the benefits of self-love that you've experienced since you made that decision to love yourself? What are the benefits? Anybody?
For me right now is the healing process. Just
Wow.
flying through my cancer treatments, and just knowing that I can do it, knowing I'm strong enough, and knowing I've got an excellent team of supporters behind me in all walks. Has been, and that just keeps that self-esteem and that self-awareness, that self-respect up there when you are having a crappy day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you had not embraced that whole concept of self-love or self-worth, where do you think you might have ended up?
I would have probably been back drinking as soon as I found out I had cancer.
Right.
I would have absolutely fallen right off the wagon. And and I realized today, 4.5 years sober today. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's powerful, very powerful.
So that's how self-love has supported you. What's another benefit? And another benefit and another benefit.
Dr.
Susie, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I think once you've embraced self-love, you can let your life unfold and you see all your giftedness. Because Sylvia mentioned her writing career. Virginia mentioned not needing to go back to something false like alcohol to cover up a need. You can see all the gifts that you have to offer the world, whether it's emotional or expressions, writing, art, encouragement for others. Everything that we can give of ourselves is a gift, but it comes from that place that we are of value and we can share it with the world.
Totally. Well said. Sylvia, what have been some benefits for you?
Excuse me.
It's okay. We'll just keep talking. The benefits that I've enjoyed has been the ability to stand up for myself, which I mentioned earlier was something I couldn't do. And I used to just, let people treat me poorly and disrespect me and disrespect my work in the world. And, when people would say to me, well, don't you have a degree in psychology to be talking to people the way that you do? And I now say, actually, I've chosen not to be a psychologist. That was a concrete decision because I know that what I do is effective and it works. So why you don't fix what isn't broken, right?
Absolutely.
So no. But one time I would have gone home feeling badly and thinking, well, gee, maybe I better go and get my degree. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? Because when you don't love who you are, what other people say and what they do has more value to you. I used to think that what other people had to say was more important or more valuable than what I had to say about my own business, even. Like, really?
Yeah.
No. All right. Over to you, Sylvia.
Sorry about that. I should have got rid of my phone.
That's okay.
I found when I started working as a correspondent for the newspaper, I knew I could do it, but I didn't have that. With love, your self-love is also, it gives you self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, they've hired me without a university degree, and they know I've got it. So because I believed in me and I loved me, I just went forward and I was doing things that I would never have done before. One example was they were filming the Blues Brothers 2000 in our area. Closed set, police, blocking all the roads. But I had my own little periodical at the time, and I was determined to get them on my front cover. I parked my car. I walked through the bush because I know the area. I lived there. And I came out onto the road, and there's all these trailers parked. And I thought, now you're here, what are you going to do? I started walking, and the producer's trailer, the door was open a bit. So I knocked on the door, and a lady's voice said, come on in. I went in. I walked in the trailer. I sat down by the little table just inside the door, and she comes out, and she says, who are you? So I perked right up, I'm so-and-so. I have my periodical, blah, blah, blah. Well, she says, how did you get here? So I walked through the bush. And she just was so amazed that anybody would have the nerve to do this. So she took me down to meet the producer, John Landry's, and there was Dan Aykroyd and James Belushi were standing there with him talking. And he looked at me and he said, I could have you arrested. And I forget what all I said, but long story short, Dan Aykroyd, when John Landry said that, he'd come over and he'd give me a big kiss on the cheek. He said, hey, she's Canadian. We believe in ourselves. And that was it. Then I got my story. I got my pictures. I was invited to the send-off dinner that evening at one of the hotels. So because I believed in me and I loved myself enough to say, you can do this. You're as good as they are.
Mhm.
There you
And off I
go.
went.
Wow.
I still have Dan Aykroyd's script with all his notes in the side.
Very cool.
So this is what self-love can do for you, ladies and gentlemen. It can get you a kiss from Dan Aykroyd. There we go. Susie.
Absolutely.
I'm glad I heard Sylvia telling that anecdote, because that reminds me of how I began my teaching career. I went into the office of a Catholic school in Norfolk, Virginia, and I asked if the principal was available. The secretary said, no, he's not available. So I said, that's okay. I'll just sit here in the office. So I had my props. It was a dictionary, a spelling book, and another book. And I just sat there for like 4 or 5 hours. The door never opened. Finally, when the door opened in the afternoon, I popped up and I said, hi, Mr. So-and-so. I'm Susie, and I know that school is going to be opening next week. I'm here to get my classroom organized. Is it okay if I just tour the school to get acclimated? Well, you could have blown him over with a feather. So I just took my little, ounce of courage and exited the office, and then walked around the school like I knew I was doing something. And they called me the next day and hired me.
I
That
love
was
it.
the beginning of my teaching career.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I have one of those stories too, which I'll share. And that's about, I was a teacher too, and Susie and I have had chats about that. But I started applying for an administrative position the minute I got hired as a teacher. So I'm 21 and I'm applying for the vice principal's positions. And back in those days, the school boards were not elected, they were appointed. So you'd have the same people sitting on the board for years. And every time I went 8 years in a row for interviews, 8 years, pounded on that door. And finally, the 8th interview, I thought, you know what? They're not going to, now I'm 29. They're not going to put a young woman like me in that position. It's mostly men anyway. We're talking in the 70s. Well, there was an old farmer on the board, and he was there every single year. And this last time that I went in, he went, oh my goodness, she's back. Let's just give her the bleep bleep job, because we got to face her she's been here every year for 8 years, and I got the job. Well, I was the youngest female in our board probably to ever have an administrative position. And but yeah, because that's when you do believe in yourself, and that's part of loving yourself, a big part of loving yourself. Mm-hmm. Especially when everyone around you is not believing in you, and you can still maintain that for yourself. Then that's your test, when other people are challenging you and trying to bring you down, but you can maintain that within you. Mm-hmm. And not let it impact you whatsoever, then you're on the right path. So we're going to take another little 30-second break, and we'll have another question for the ladies when we come back. And Virginia, you probably have all kinds of stories too. Knowing you.
We welcome you to advertise and promote your goods and services, and or brand your logo to 34 million subscribers on Canada Talks 167. Your investment will go towards our employment programs in the media industry for persons with disabilities and veterans.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching the Today Show. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, your host, and I have some of my beautiful friends with me today. Dr. Susie Mierzwik from Yucaipa, California, Sylvia Somerville from Niagara Falls, Canada, and of course, Virginia Clarke from Lacombe County, Alberta. And so we're in an international call today, Susie, thanks to you coming in. So where I'd like to go next is a little edgy where I want to take us next. But I think our viewers, you know me, I'm a little edgy. But let's talk about self-love as it relates to, or just even love. Let's talk about love and how it's different for men and women. So, in other words, we've been conditioned and programmed to be the caregivers, the nurturers. He's supposed to go out and kill the moose and bring it home. Um, but how do you think it? And Virginia, you have a son, so you can relate to that. And you've got children, male and female, in your family, and Sylvia, you have a son and a daughter. So, what is the difference, I guess, or view? Like for some men, love is just sex, right? That's love to them. For us girls, there's got to be more than that, right? There's got to be more than that. So let's just talk about the gender thing in terms of love and how that can. Some people have read this book called Love Languages, but I'm if you're familiar with that too. But I remember we were visiting friends. We were young, as in the 70s, and you do dinner together. And these very good friends of ours, she had prepared this beautiful meal, and of course, we as women always appreciate it when other people cook food for us. So I said, that was amazing. And my husband said, yeah, it was really good. And her husband looked at her and said, well, I ate it, didn't I? And I thought, wow, there's no love there. All right. So what do we know about that? What do we think about that? What do we want to say about that? Because we need to, maybe our guys don't understand that love is a decision backed up with action or a behavior. Love is a behavior. So what do we know?
Well, and I think for our guys, it's almost taboo to talk about it because you're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be strong. You're not supposed to show weakness. You're not supposed to blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Men don't cry. Boys don't cry. So as a parent of a male, a boy, I just, if he cries, he cries. I know that my husband and I have conversations about that. It's okay to show your feelings. It's okay to let it go if you have to let it go. And it's okay to show, stuff like that. So I know that's something that we have worked on over the years, my husband and I, for our, and to us, that's what love is too, is those ups and downs and sticking together as a team and working together through things. So it's like you said, yes, love language is learning what each other's love language is and accepting that everyone is different. And it's okay. It's okay that way, right? But it's, my husband was raised in a generation where, men don't show emotion. They don't cry. They don't do this. So for his, to let go and let his son be okay with that was a big step for him, a big learning curve. Yeah. So
beautiful. Yeah. Good example. Thank you. Ladies, Susie, if you got, Susie still thinks she's in kindergarten. She's got to put her hand up.
Yeah, I do. I don't want to interrupt.
No, I know. Thank you, Susie.
Well, I think for a lot of men, love means entitlement, meaning they can be entitled to do whatever, say whatever, be whatever, and that's good enough. Now, in my case, I think my first husband felt entitled to do whatever he darn well pleased. And he gave me gifts. He traveled around the world, but he'd come back with a gift from somewhere, as if that would make up for lack of communication, for feeding on grass that was greener on the other side of the fence. Not meeting my needs, but I think that he felt entitled because he was bringing home the bacon, and then he was bringing me gifts as if I should be grateful for these little things. But to me, it's like stuff you can buy. That does not equal love.
Yeah.
Words of appreciation are something I needed. Quality time is something I needed, not a thing that was bought because, he was out there doing whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Good example. Thank you. Sylvia, your perspective on that. Men
Well,
versus women.
I agree that I think men are afraid, men consider showing love and affection as something negative, that they're maybe not as strong and powerful as they want to appear if they give in to, say when you're out in a restaurant, they pull out the chair for you, or they might give you a little kiss on the cheek about something out in public. And with my husband, he was raised on a farm. So I figure I was very fortunate because in a farming community, everyone actually does love each other. They have to help each other, and all the emotions are on the surface. They don't hide anything. And my dad was military, but even though he was we had a strict upbringing, but when it came to tears or anger, he used to teach us how to control it and love and have your anger, keep everything in balance. But with men, I found Ray, after marriage, he kind of softened up. And I think when you have a close acquaintance relationship with a male, whether it be friends, family, whatever, if you start showing them affection and love in that non-romantic way, if it's friends or whatever, just that you can be friends and still love each other. And I think that is something it's hard for men to grasp, but they do. They do. But yeah, men are afraid to show affection. We have to teach them that.
So all of you ladies out there who have sons,
Yes.
start getting them geared up and ready for when they meet that nice young girl that belongs to somebody else.
Yeah.
And I remember one night, a group of us girls, we were rather man bashing, if you will. Back in the day, we'd get together and start man bashing. And one evening, and of course, this was before I'd done any work on myself and I didn't know any different. So I said, well, isn't it interesting? I said, all these guys that are acting like a-holes, I said, who raised them? And they said, oh my gosh, their moms mostly, because, men would be away working or not on the scene. I said, yeah. So we're raising them up to meet your little girl and treat her like crap for the next generation.
Yeah.
So, but for me, it was always about men. I have a lot of male friends still, and I always did, even when I was married. And even when I was teaching school, I don't know why, but I preferred teaching boys. But maybe because I thought I could teach them something. I guess that was probably it. But for me, it was about emotional support. I didn't need anybody to earn a living. I didn't need anybody to put food on my table. Because I always did that for myself. Yeah. But what I had a problem with was after marriage number 2, I didn't even realize that those guys were not able to support me emotionally, which was the only thing I really needed in a relationship. And then I met Ron, and I expressed that to him, that I needed somebody who could emotionally support me. And he said, well, I don't know that I know how to do that. You're going to have to show me how to do that. Because he said, I might have a feeling that that's why the first marriage didn't last after 26 years. Maybe I wasn't emotionally available. But you see, he was smart enough to connect that.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, here's what I need. And that's the other thing. We need to clarify for our friends and partners, what is it that we need for support?
Yeah.
Whether it's emotional, financial, physical, whatever, spiritual. What do we need to feel loved and supported? So that will be our next question when we come back from our break. What do we need to feel loved and supported? Not just by ourselves, but from other people as well. We'll be right back after this 30-second message of snowflakes flying up in the sky.
The Disability Channel would like to thank our existing sponsors. We really appreciate the support and kindness from the BIAs across the GTA, Ontario, Canada, and our friends in the USA. We love making new friends. Thank you for supporting our existing employment programs.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching the Today Show here on the Disability Channel. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, your host, and feeling so blessed today to have these beautiful women on the show with me and Virginia this morning, because Monday is all about self-care, self-love, empowerment, confidence building. Tuesday, of course, is finance with Dr. Ramin Modiri, and he always has a fun plan for us. I don't know what it is for tomorrow, or I would tell you. And Wednesday is wellness. On Wednesday, we talk to people who have special modalities out there, or we talk about, and when we say wellness, we mean emotional, physical, spiritual, mental. And Thursdays are specialized communities. And right now we're featuring a lot of veterans. And it's also for our disabled community, our Indigenous community, and guests coming in. And then on Friday, it's Fun Friday. So Friday, I bring in my authors, my artists, my musicians, anybody that has fun things out there that they want to promote. So that's our lineup. And then, of course, on Tuesdays at 11 o'clock, we do a special show with former NHLer Doug Smith, the Press Box. And tomorrow we're featuring a very famous hockey player on our show tomorrow as well. So, and we always get into conversations, believe it or not, about wellness, because of course Doug's very big on trauma recovery, and but especially among athletes. So that's kind of his thing. And I'm the co-host. I said, be the host, Doug. I can be the co-host. So we're on there together. All right. So what were we going to talk about now? I forgot what I said.
What do we need to feel loved?
Thank you. What do we need to feel loved and supported? What kind of emotional support do we need? Or any kind of support do we need? So what do we need? What makes us feel loved?
For me, it's being heard.
Okay.
Yeah. That's one of the big things, being heard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know, Virginia, it's interesting you bring that up, because in all my work over the years, when I work with clients and they talk about what's gone on for them, their trauma and whatever, it was never really about the trauma itself. It was about the fact that nobody believed them, or nobody heard them, or they had no one to go to even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Sylvia, what do you need to feel loved?
Well, I'm very similar to Virginia on that. I need to know that I have a confidant. Someone who loves me is going to let me just talk, and they're going to listen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking for advice most of the time. You just want to, as you said, be heard. You want someone who will listen to what you're going to say, listen to what your goals are. If you're not feeling good or you're ticked off about something, you can talk all about it, and they're not going to criticize you or, yeah, what if, or they're just going to listen. Because a lot of times, like you said, we just need someone to hear us, someone to listen, and not only listen, but listen with their heart as well as their mind, and support you in whatever it is that's going on. So in the end of it, you feel relieved. You got all that off your chest.
Well, what's that saying? When the burden is shared, it's lightened. When you share a burden, then it makes it lighter.
Yeah.
What about you, Dr. Susie?
Well, you know what? Virginia and Sylvia have brought up a key issue, and that is I need to be listened to. And I remembered with my first husband, when I would express any kind of, you could say, negative feelings, sadness or loneliness or something like that, he would get angry and think that he had to fix me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wanted to put wrap it up in a box and hand it to me to be fixed. But with my second husband, he will wait until I'm able to explain how I feel. And sometimes, since I grew up in a dysfunctional situation where feelings weren't allowed, it takes me a while to be able to feel what's happening inside. It takes a while to download it even to myself, and then to be able to express it in words. It takes a little longer.
Yeah.
But instead of wanting to squash it down, like, oh my God, my first husband said, she's having a nervous breakdown again. If you will allow me to express myself, then all those feelings can come out and be healed.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
absolutely.
For me, it's the little things. It's not, I don't need big stuff, but when, let's say if Ron goes out to do some groceries or whatever, and he comes home with a rose, that means the world to me. Just those little gestures of appreciation, or when he tells me that, this is in my marriage. If he says to me, I just want to thank you for everything that you do for us. See, that's emotional support, right?
Absolutely.
And I never had that. And I thought, wow, yeah, that makes a big difference for me, when just the little things. So that's what's held us together for 32 years. At least I got it right the third time. If I didn't get it right the first two times, right? I got it right the third time. Yes.
Use a charm.
3 times a charm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And also, for me now, I'm finding that to be respected is more important to me than love, even.
Yeah.
When I get disrespected, I really don't take kindly to that anymore. I used to allow it, but now I don't. And whether that's my family or friends or colleagues, no. So, yeah. So what else? Anything else we need to feel loved? Anything else we need to feel loved?
Can I say something here?
Absolutely. You don't have to ask.
When you were talking about Ron bringing you home a little rose, it put me in mind of Ray worked in a factory, shift work. So obviously at the end of the day, he would be tired. But every day when he came home, we were in a rural area, he would stop somewhere along the way home and pick wildflowers. Every day he came home from work, he would have a new bouquet of wildflowers. He loved what we both loved, wildflowers. But you made me think of it when you were talking about the rose. No reason. Hard day of work, and on the way home, he'd have to pick them up. And if that doesn't say love, nothing does.
Yeah.
You with Ron in the bringing you a flower, it's like you said, those little things that nobody asked for.
No, that's right. I love you, so I took out the garbage. And that's the other thing. Here's a thing too we can comment on is the difference between conditional and unconditional love, right? So conditional love is, if you love me, you would do this or go there, or if you love me enough, you would do that. Well, that's strings attached. That's conditions, right? So unconditional is with no strings attached. Just be that. Just be that. Be that love, right? So, all right. Anything anyone else has to say? We've got about 5 minutes left. Isn't this like the fastest hour of the day for me? Oh my goodness. This has been great. So let's just wrap things up with any closing remarks you might have that you want to share around this thing called love, self-love.
I remember as a kid growing up, and if you would, like Susie said, express yourself, I would get, especially from my dad, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about.
Right.
Like, what does that mean?
Exactly.
I'm already crying. Like, what is that? Right. So they just don't, when you're raised by people who exactly don't have that concept of self-love and self-respect, it's hard for you as a child, absolutely, to know any different. Like you said, Susie, to know any different. But yeah, it's, when you finally realize what you're doing, that's, you're just hurting yourself, and learning now how important self-love is, just to stay, especially in my case, stay sober and stay strong for my family. It's huge. It's so empowering. And yeah, I just want to say, I'm so blessed to be able to come on Monday mornings and talk about this powerful, empowering, everything we do, this self-worth, self-love, self-care. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Virginia. Closing remarks, Susie?
Well, I just want to echo what Virginia said. When you've been growing up in a household where love is not really spoken, it's just all about duty and obedience, it's hard to learn self-love. And in my case, it was just about pleasing those in authority. So the journey to self-love was a long one. But I finally arrived, and so I'm happy to say that I did reach it.
You did. You absolutely did.
Yes, you did.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Sylvia?
Again, we all see the value of self-love and loving others. And again, the old adage, you can't love someone else unless you love yourself. And I think when we ourselves feel the love as we all do, and we know love is more than just kisses and hugs, and love is life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of, I like the idea that when you meet people you know are angry and very miserable, cranky, it's because nobody loves them and they don't even love themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps it might be good if each time you meet someone like that, we could, even if you give them a smile, they think, what's she smiling about? But it might make them think a little bit, and realize somebody cares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we have a choice. We can decide to love or to hate. We get to pick.
Mm-hmm.
And when we choose the right thing, which is self-love and the love of others, it just makes life easier all the way around. And so when you think about all the people living in chaos and confusion and dysfunction and violence and all the things that come of that, and I know for me, I'm always making sure that whatever it is I'm doing at any particular time, that I'm doing is supporting me. And I stay away from those things that do not support me.
Yeah.
So I become my own best supporter, my own fan club, my own everything. And it's not to be self-centered or narcissistic. It's not that at all. Because the more I care about me, the more I have to care for others.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of like that old bran muffin recipe we had back in the 70s, where we'd put the muffin mix in the fridge and then it would double in size. And then you pull it out, you make 6 muffins and you put a little more ingredient in, put it back in, and it would, it's the same thing. Love is, there's no limit. It's infinite.
Yeah.
And the more you love yourself, the more energy. I have more energy now than when I was younger because of the self-love. That's been my greatest gift, is knowing that I can do whatever I want and, expand my vision of what is possible and embrace everything that I know supports me.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't support me, it can't be part of my circle. So I want to thank all of you for supporting me today. I feel really loved and blessed by each and every one of you that's here, for sure. And I've been so fortunate to have met you and have been able to have you in my circle. So thank you, ladies, very much for stepping up and being part of the show today. And I think it's time to get some of you back on it to interview you. So it's been a while, and I just booked Sylvia, and I'd love to book you, Susie, so that we can have our own show on whatever we want to talk about, whether it's wellness or our books or whatever else that we're doing, because we have a whole new audience now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's timely. It's timely.
Yeah.
Okay. So our time is up. And thank you once again. You've been watching the Today Show here on the Disability Channel. And see you tomorrow, same time, same station, with Dr. Ramin Modiri, some kind of special list he's going to come up with. He came up with one here a few weeks ago, the best 15 places to live on the planet. Unfortunately, Canada or the United States was not on the list. It didn't make the list. So we have to do something about that.
Yeah.
All right. So bye for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Made me believe I needed you, but the truth is you didn't want to lose. Said you'd never fool me, but the thing is that I don't agree. Made it seem like you're the only one who would accept me. I guess you were wrong. Right after you left me, realized you should have kept me. Would be accused of your lies. That was the last time. Don't wanna be a victim. Don't wanna be a victim. You think I could never move on. You said there could never be a swan. You think that I needed you, but the truth